Welcome to the Mens Lifeline Academy, where we focus on men who have a story to tell. A story of triumph and how they overcame an obstacle and are now working to help other men in their lives and their families, friends, and communities to be the best version of themselves. And today I have Chase, who's the host of the Three Pillars podcast. So, Chase, welcome to the show, man.
Zach, thank you for having me, sir. I appreciate it. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, and hope everyone had a good Merry Christmas and a happy holidays. If you celebrate Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, hope your holidays are good and your families are well. So, Chase, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I am a husband, father of three, Marine veteran, and now I actually work in the security industry. Um, I host the Three Pillars podcast. I think we'll get into that here just a little bit later on. Really just an ordinary guy who's putting through some extraordinary circumstances. And here we are. The biggest kind of hurdle was trying to kind of find my place in the world after college. And that's kind of what we'll get into today.
Mm-hmm.
I, again, very much appreciate you reaching out to me on X. It's been great connecting with you over there. You put out a lot of really good content. And I think the circles that we travel in line up very, very well. So, I appreciate the interview, sir.
Oh, of course. I'm really curious to hear about your Three Pillars fitness and how you're using that to help kind of perform your own podcast and how you help reach the lives of everyone that you touch through X. And I see that every day you get a little bit closer to that 1K. So hopefully we can get you there.
One of these days it'll get there. It's at the end of the day, it's not really about the followers or the engagement. If just one person finds some type of meaning in what we do, that's good enough for me. Honestly, I'm not selling anything. I'm not doing anything like that. Just I put out content that is really designed just to edify you one week at a time or one day at a time.
Perfect. Best response you could ever have, because every time someone takes a risk at you, look at your content, it's one person saying, "Hey, maybe I can trust you today."
That's it. And I think the key to that is just being genuine and being consistent. And that's been my story from the very beginning. And I think we'll get into that here in just a little bit. So, however you want to get started, we can rock and roll, man.
Yeah, well, first of all, before we get started, just thank you for your service being a Marine veteran. So we always, I've had the privilege of actually having a few veterans on, so I'm always appreciative of when they take time to come on and the sacrifices they've done for this country.
Thank you, and I appreciate the support. I speak for a lot of in the veteran community. Thank you all very much for your support. My challenge to anybody who's never been in the military is they always say that the military and police, fire, EMS always kind of hold themselves to a higher standard, or they're held to a higher standard. The average civilian can still hold themselves to a high standard as well. And if they would all sort of do that, it would make this world a lot better place. So thank you for the support. And that's the best way to support a veteran, is to be an American worth serving. You know what I mean?
Right. I like that. To have that worth of serving and being able to be there for the person.
That's it.
So what kind of led your journey to kind of begin to start the Three Pillars podcast?
Well, it's always kind of been on my heart to be kind of a motivator. And that was my nickname that they gave me in the Marine Corps, was the motivator, Tobinator, the motivator. Pretty much because I love to do PT, all the physical training. And it was kind of like they equated me to being like the Terminator. I would just never stop. Everything we did was just never stopping, no matter how gruesome or grueling or anything like that. But always doing it with a positive attitude. Positive mental attitude, hard work, motivation, and consistency is what got me through the Marine Corps. And kind of what led me there, and I'll get to the podcast in a minute. What led me to the Marine Corps was my time in college, my time in high school. I always had some type of leadership position, whether it was the captain of the football team or whether it was the leader of the brass section in the band. Getting into college, I was the president of my fraternity. Just always had some type of leadership position. That's not to blow smoke, but that's just my history. When I got out of college, I graduated with a degree in criminal justice from East Carolina University. And I was looking at going into law enforcement. In fact, I was in basic law enforcement training here in North Carolina, was the top of my class, was the class commander, and was a certified police officer for a year, but could not get hired anywhere. At that time, it was 2010 rolling into 2011, and the country was still in a kind of a recession, and people had already a lot of people were on hiring freezes, including my hometown police department, where I really wanted to work. That's where I live now. I was kind of at a point where what do I do? I'm 22 years old. I've got all these credentials. I'm working at a gym, selling gym memberships, which that's part of the whole journey is being in fitness, right?
Right.
I walking through my door one day, a Marine recruiter came through, and I'd talked to the Marines before, but he came in. We got to talking. I told him I'd thought about joining. If there's going to be branch of service, that was going to be it. He said, "Well, let's look at getting you into the officer program." I said, "Okay, let's have a look." It was like a 2-year wait to go to be an officer at that time, and I'm like, I don't have that. I can't just sit around here for 2 years waiting to go. I said, "Is there anything quicker?" He said, "Well, you can go enlisted." I said, "Well, and maybe go officer later." I said, "Let's try it." So I went. So about 9 months later, I ended up going into the Marine Corps, and that's where I really found my purpose. Was the kind of I sat and I really kind of did some soul searching at the time. I had sort of stepped away from my faith just a little bit, but I at that kind of crossroads moment in my life, I turned to the Lord and said, "Is this what you want me to do?" And it was a big resounding yes, because I sort of got fast tracked into the Marine Corps. Had a couple opportunities to potentially go early. It was still about a 9-month process, but I got in and really hit the ground running. I was a little older at that time. I was 24 when I enlisted. A lot of guys go in at 18 years old.
Right.
And so I'm competing against 18-year-olds fresh out of high school, all still physically fit and all this stuff. And here I am, I'm like, okay, I have to be as hard and disciplined as I possibly can. So I took it upon myself during that 9-month kind of workup period to go to the Marine Corps to be as physically fit as possible. Went in, I scored a perfect PFT, scored perfect CFT, scored it, all those things you're supposed to do. And that set the tone for my career in the Marine Corps. That kind of pivotal moment of joining the Marines established a lot more discipline, a lot more routine, a lot more structure to my life that I didn't necessarily have from college. I was good at time management, pretty smart guy, I like to think, but the routine that was instilled in me, I still carry it through today. Fast forward to 2014, I ended up getting married, had my first child. Had been on 2 deployments at that time, and I'm not a war hero. I'm just going to throw that out there right now. I served in the infantry, but at that time frame when I was in the Marines between 2012 and 2017, most of the stuff in Iraq and Afghanistan were done. So it was basically it was peacetime. So I did a lot of joint operations with other countries. I did a lot of infantry stuff, but I never went to a combat zone. So I'll never call myself a war hero. All my guys who are war heroes will say I'm not a hero. I did my job. So much respect to those guys. So I'm not this battle hardened Marine. I was always trained. We were always very, very prepared to do whatever we needed to do. We were in some pretty hot situations at a couple points in my career where we almost went to do something really cool. But all that being said, by the time I got out, I found my second challenge of life. That kind of first purpose was, what do I do after college? Found myself in the Marine Corps. Now getting out of the Marine Corps, how do you transition? I think if you've worked with veterans a lot, that's a very, very difficult thing to do.
And I do. So that's one of the hardest things to do when you have that free time. Then you're not used to having free time since you're always told what you're doing next. Like you don't really have to think per se.
Absolutely. And that's kind of the point where I want to kind of drive this point home is when you get out of the military, here I am, okay, college degree, military experience. I should be, in my head at least, and this is eating the humble pie, as it were. I should be the hottest thing out there for somebody to scoop up and put them into whatever position I find myself in and really thrive.
Right.
Well, it didn't work out like that. I was working to go into the FBI. I was looking at the selection process there.
Oh.
went through all the psychological, went through all of the physical, had everything ready to go to be in the FBI. But that was at a point where I think they were in a little bit of a shakeup too. And so anybody who had any type of stain on it, I had a couple speeding tickets. I obviously self-admit when I was in college, I unfortunately had done some drugs a little bit. Nothing crazy, but you have to self-admit that stuff on your polygraph analysis and everything. So any little smudge that you have, they weren't taken. So my polygraph, it came back inconclusive. I didn't fail it, I didn't pass it, but it came back inconclusive twice, and that was enough for them to DQ me from that process.
Oh,
And that took about a year of my life away because I was kind of waiting on that, because all signs were pointing to this is what you're going to be doing. Meanwhile, I'm out of the Marines working at a hospital in security. Great group of guys, awesome environment, learned a lot there, but it just the pay wasn't there. I had a wife and a child. I was trying to support them, which what happened. I moved back. That was let's see, probably 2018. I moved back to North Carolina finally because we moved to New Jersey, where my wife was from, right after the Marines. Stayed with her parents for a little bit. Then moved back down to North Carolina, where we lived with my mom for a little bit. So, talk about a huge shakeup. Here I am trying to, be the man of the house, and I'm living with my mom again. I'm like, oh, so that was kind of my impetus to, you still have to keep working. You still have to work hard. You still have to keep your motivation up, and you still have to be consistent. And that's been the theme throughout my life. And so that's what I did. I was working at a university here in North Carolina in security, still waiting on that FBI process. Excuse me. They told me no. And I was, again, found myself, what do I do? And lo and behold, a buddy of mine I went to high school with saw that I was back in North Carolina. He said, hey, man, I've just started a position at this in the security industry. We're hiring. Would you be interested? Well, yeah, of course. Like I got to find something.
right.
And I stepped into the security industry in 2018, March timeframe, 2018, 2019, I think, and have been in it ever since. And I've been incredibly blessed on the journey I've been with that. I worked at a company where I got to go and solve problems for police, for schools, for government entities on how to harden their facilities and get them
Oh,
basically take what I learned in the Marine Corps and apply it to the civilian sector with ballistic protection and force protection and perimeter security, all these things. And that's what I do now is in sales and security. We do a lot more perimeter security protection for high security events. That's what I currently do now. And it was a struggle. It was very humbling. And I consider myself a pretty high caliber person, but to go through all that really makes you appreciate the support networks that you build along the way. A lot of my friends from the Marines were like, dude, just keep crushing it. I'm struggling too, but we'll figure it out. Some of them went into law enforcement. Some of them got into security. Some of these guys did some other things and have been crushing it as well. The guys I've met in this industry, a lot of them are veterans. They're a huge support network as well. So that is how I kind of overcame the trials, is trusting in the Lord, because with becoming a husband and a father, that became a central point to my wife and I's relationship, was our relationship with God. So strong support in that, support from my wife, my family, my friends. And if guys are listening, they don't have that, that's going to be crucial to your success. Is you have to have a support network, and you have to maintain your routine. I've seen too many veterans get out of whatever service that they're in, and they literally they fall off. They think, okay, I could take a month off. Fine, that's fine. Take a month off, relax, gap year, whatever you want to call it.
sure.
But eventually, you've got to get back into it, because that's just how you've been reprogrammed, whether you like it or not. That's going to help you stay successful in your daily routine, because that's just one less decision that you have to make. I know that I'm going to get up at X time. I know I'm going to go PT or go to the gym or whatever. I know I'm going to come back and I'm going to eat breakfast and I'm going to go to work. I know it's already regimented out.
Right.
A lot of people can kind of shoot from the hip, but I think you and I can both agree that the better plan you have, the better you have something planned out, the more efficient you're going to be.
Yeah, well, especially if you've been in the military in any stretch of time, it's even
Yep,
more crucial because that free time is almost a scary time if we don't, again, know what you're gonna do. So it's like almost literally having, I don't want to say like hour per hour, scheduled,
yeah,
but pretty darn close to having each hour of what you're gonna be doing, whether that's, reaching out to friends, like
yep,
going out for a run, finding ways to structure yourself the night before so that way you plan for your day. I found
100%.
and working with veterans, that's one of the best things you can do. Because as they say, free time's the devil's playground.
Well, I was gonna. That's you took the words right out of my mouth. Idle hands are a devil's plaything, and if you don't have something to fill that time, something constructive to fill that time with, I see guys fall out into alcohol abuse or drug
Yeah.
abuse, or they just find themselves lacking purpose because they're again not utilizing their free time to better themselves or better people around them. And so that's kind of why that's basically why I started my podcast. I've always put out motivational stuff since college, since internet was a thing and Facebook and all that stuff. I always threw up some kind of motivational quote, always shared positive articles,
Oh, nice.
things of that nature. I was doing that 15 years ago, but probably I really got into listening to podcasts probably when I started as in the security industry because I was commuting a lot and I was traveling a lot for work, and so
Mhm.
in the time to pass the time, listen to podcasts. So listen to a lot of listen to the Jockos and the Rogans and the Order of Man podcast and these type of guys, and forget who it was that finally said, "Listen, if you got something on your heart you want to say, just pick up the mic and hit record." And that's what I did. Um, the idea was to use these three pillars of fitness that I have sort of coined. I'm not, it's not necessarily an original thought, but it made sense for me
Mhm.
to use spiritual, mental, and physical fitness. If you exercise all three of those sections of your life, it basically takes a holistic approach to the overall health and mental wellness.
Mhm.
Um, helping basically once a week coming on and teaching something is kind of my idea. At the very beginning, it was literally what is physical fitness, what is spiritual fitness, what is mental fitness, how do we exercise our brains, our souls, and our bodies, and it just sort of evolves. I don't do a lot of interviews, but it's just 15, 20, 30 minutes of your week on something that could potentially make you better. For example, I just got done with a 12-week study, and you'll appreciate this because you do a lot of psychology and therapy and things, right?
Right.
On the 12 Jungian archetypes by Carl
Mhm.
Jung. So he's got everybody split into these kind of 12 major archetypes, and they're not so rigid that you fit one exactly. They all kind of
Right.
go fluid together, but helping guys understand their kind of personality type and their archetype may help them find some purpose. So I just did, from whether it's a caregiver, the king, the magician, all these different ones. I just got through a whole 12-week study on that. Starting in the new year, I'm going to go through the hero's journey and what that means,
Oh,
and
cool.
try to help guys find their purpose that way. But always tying in physical fitness, mental fitness, and spiritual fitness in every episode is my goal. Some of it's what supplements can I take? What is a good fitness routine? What is it? What is what is balance? How do I overcome fear? That's some of the topics that I throw around on my podcast, and we're almost 200 episodes in
Oh,
right now.
cool.
And and again, it's just me talking. Every now
Right.
and then, I'm blessed to have someone like yourself come on or jump on a podcast like this and just kind of chat it up. Um, but that's kind of the genesis of the Three Pillars podcast was just, hey, how could I now take what I've learned over the course of my life? I'll be 37 next week. Um, what can I what can I do to take my own personal journey and help somebody else out? That's the goal. Because if I have learned anything throughout this journey, is the more you can serve others, the more you give honor and glory to the Lord because you're trying to serve His kingdom. How can I it just it's more gratifying that way. Not that anything that I do or you do is for self gratification or
Right.
self glorification, but it feels so much better when you can help somebody and kind of minimize yourself and try to help somebody else reach their full potential. So that's kind of That's why I do my podcast is to try to help. Like we said earlier, if it's just one person in 200 episodes, if only one person has been helped, I call that a win. There have been several because they've reached out to me, but if it was just one, it'd be worth it.
Well, that's the best mentality to develop, and that's the strongest mentality to develop, especially with a lot of dopamine hits when you look at follower counts and when you see that number go up and down and then really sometimes go down and then kind of back up a little bit.
Yep.
It's really that mentality, knowing that, is someone even watching this, right?
Yep.
And so when you do get that gratification after putting a lot of effort into it, it does give you like a sign of relief, knowing that you do make a difference.
Yep.
And that's the key, is like, especially when you focus on servitude and serving, you're focusing on the other person, not serving self, you're serving others.
Yeah. And that's part of the, what is it? Is it Maslow's hierarchy of needs, is eventually helping other people, kind of flipping that pyramid and what can I actually do to bring other people? Because this journey that we're all on, if I reach the top of this mountain and I'm all by myself and have nobody to share the view with, what's the point? But if I can help as many people get up this mountain and we all get up there together and we share the load and this kind of thing, it's just, what is it? A rising tide raises all ships, right? So if we can be that tide and get everybody elevated. When I was in the Marines, and my dad told me this a long time ago, the harder you work for your guys, the harder they'll work for you.
Right.
So I've always put that into practice, no matter whether I was in at band camp or whether I was in boot camp, is if I can work as hard and show and physically show, especially with guys, if you can show that you are physically competent, and then obviously then you're mentally competent. So anybody going into boot camp, if you're as physically fit as possible, then all you have to worry about is the mental games. And that applies into life. If you are if you know your body's not going to give out under stress, now all you've got to do is worry about the mental aspect of it. And if you're very rooted in your faith, whatever your faith is, that's going to help you just kind of as that kind of anchor point, and your moral compass is permanently fixed if you apply all of these things. And so if you work really hard for your guys, they're going to say, what I can work hard for this guy. I respect him. I know he's going to take care of me. If he's having an off day, hey Sergeant, what, looking like you're having kind of a bum day, what's up? And you can't be on it every single day, but say, man, I'm just kind of bummed out that I got it. Don't worry. Gunny told you to do this. I'll go handle it for you. Little things like that. Like they'll take care of you. Or next thing you know, you've got like, a tub of protein sitting around. So where did this thing come from? Your guys pitched in and bought you some because they know you were at the gym. Little things like, but you know that they respect you when you do that. Or if you tell them to do something, they just go do it. Don't just give you any back talk. This kind of thing that applies, again, not just in the military, but in a civilian setting too. The more you work for your guys, the harder you work for your guys, the harder they're going to work for you. And you just build that rapport, that trust, those relationships. And that's, if I could offer any advice to any transitioning veteran, any person just kind of looking for a purpose, is number one, don't let yourself get to a point where you're kind of down, right? But it's going to happen. The point is don't give up. I'll be aware that these things can happen, but maintain that positive mental attitude and take care of your guys, and your team will they'll take care of you.
Mm-hmm. No, that's the most important part. It's like when you know that you care about someone and you show it, and you show up to care about people, support them, and even have a bit of honesty too. If you're having a rough day, to be honest, like it's a rough day, but you still got things to do.
Yep.
Time doesn't stop.
That's
there's that
true.
mission, there's that task that needs to be completed. It's like, okay, let's focus on how we can get that done together.
Yep.
So when you come from that teamwork aspect and knowing that, and that's what's good about being a servant leader, is when you're focusing on also doing the work, not just instructing others to do the work.
Yep.
And people will know that in an instant, really. Like, okay, this guy's really here for me. This guy's stopping, caring about me, and actually listening to if I'm going through a rough time or I don't fully, understand the mission or the instruction. And that's where it really comes into play, is having that clarity and precision and knowing what is the task at hand.
Yep. And be, like you said, being able to jump in and being, what we always call a working supervisor, is being able to jump in, there's a point of friction, whatever it might be. This task needs to get done. That task needs to get done. Whatever it is, you can jump in because you're proficient at it. Show them, hey, I see you're having an issue. Why don't you try it this way? Oh, that makes a lot of sense. Help them do it for a little bit. Okay, you guys good? Let me go bounce over here because I've got to take care of this. When you get to that level, obviously, if you're the the low man on the totem pole, you still need to work hard, be motivated, stay consistent, and listen to your superiors. And this is again, military or not. If it's your first day at a new job, you don't want to come in just I'm getting ready to change everything that's here. You got to slowly work your way into that. If you have ideas and things that are going to work, you can obviously make that happen. But if you come in kind of swinging and automatically want to change the entire culture of whatever place you're in, especially as a veteran, I need this place running like boot camp. You can't do that. You can run yourself like that, and you can help instill that into people later on who are maybe need a little bit more proficiency help on time management and things like that. You can come in and you can, by your example alone, can show how your system is better. But if you come in just saying, "Oh, this is the way, the only way. This is how we're going to make it happen," you're going to get a lot of resentment, a lot of pushback, especially in the civilian world. So you can come in as a consummate professional, as a military veteran transitioning into the civilian world, and you can maintain that level of performance and proficiency, no problem. But if you come in and immediately trying to be all drill instructor or squad leader or whatever you are, and try to immediately upend your current company, you're gonna have a lot of pushback. But if you just take your example, that's the biggest example of performance proficiency. Be kind, be respectful, and show that you're really willing to help and serve and make the organization as a whole better. Like you said a minute ago, people see through that and see it very, very, very quickly. Even if you don't have a lot of conversations with people, they will see whether you're blowing smoke or not, or being a showboat or anything like that. If you're genuinely trying to help and genuinely trying to serve and genuinely just trying to be the best you can at whatever position you find yourself in, that's going to set you apart and earn you a lot more respect and rapport with your peers.
Correct. And that's why one of the key things I'll teach people is know your role.
Yes.
And then once you know your role, you have to stay within your role.
Yeah.
And so you can't go around.
Tell me about that. I want to know more about kind of what is your thought? How would you counsel someone that say I'm fresh out of the military. I was at one of the highest levels of performance. I held for me specifically, let's just say, I was a platoon. I was a squad leader, and then I became a platoon sergeant right before I got out. Now I'm coming in. Now I'm the low man on a totem pole. How would you tell me? I think I know what you're going to say, but I would like to know how would you help me know my role in the civilian section?
Well, I'll just saying like, well, let's say you're at a new job, right? And you have all that experience. You're the top of the top. You're the top dog, right? I would say, well, just like in boot camp, did you start at the top? Did you just all of a sudden be the top person? Well, the answer is going to be no. You had to work your way up. So but you knew what was expected of you. You knew your job description. You knew when you were going to be working out, showing up and things like that. So I always tell people and teach people, learn to stay in your role and understand what your role is. So it might be at the basic, it might be your job description. So if your job description is, let's say showing up and standing guard for 5 hours a day, then maybe doing 2 hours of sales, then that is your role. Your role is not to change the system. Your role is to learn the system. Your job and your role is what's that. Now, if you prove yourself and can go up, go up the ranks, then maybe you can work on understanding how things work and operate. Then maybe you can have an impact at that point. But I always come from an impact standpoint, not a change aspect. So change is like when you expect everything to be done and your ideas can be the best, and all of a sudden you snap your fingers and you have things the way you want it. That's change. That's not reality. Well, what is reality is slow, gradual adjustments to something, which is impact. So that's going from no one cares about me to, okay, one person cares about me. Okay, that's okay. I'm not going to say this word and call someone like, let's say, an idiot or a fool. I'm going to stay within my lane and in my role of doing what's expected of me. Then if someone asks me to work on a project, then that's an additional role that you have. Now you're proving yourself. Now you're showing yourself that you can control yourself, be even-tempered, and play the game. Because there's a book, I forget who it's by, but it's like the games people play. So just
Okay,
gotta play ball.
that's it. I like that. And that makes perfect sense. And that's sound advice for anybody. Obviously speaking as a veteran, but I think really anybody can apply that. Is
Mhm.
if you change companies, if you go into a new setting, whatever it might be, if you come in like you said, swinging, people are going to be like, "Who is this guy? Has no credibility, no rapport
Right.
with me. Try to come in here and tell me all these different things, unless you come in as like an executive or something. But if you're just coming in, even an executive coming in as a new leader at a company, if you come in and immediately just start hammering away at people's status quo, you're going to have issues. Now, is there a time and a place for that? Yeah, I love watching like Bar Rescue or Gordon Ramsay, and he comes
Sure.
in and there's literally the restaurants are in shambles or in chaos. And at that point, you really have to come in with a more aggressive tactic
Mhm.
to change something, because somebody's going to get hurt, or you're really not going to thrive, and you're not going to be doing well. That's wildly different. But the average ordinary experience, somebody starting at a new company, you don't have to come in and start axing policies and people and all these things because of X, Y, or Z. Like you said,
Yeah.
gradual change, your slow impact, and sort of coming in that way. You can make everybody more efficient that way if you do it right. No, and like I said, know your role, stay in your lane. It
Yep.
eventually your lane widens out. That makes a lot of sense, Zach. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and I can't tell you how many times I've heard, and I worked a few jobs where it kind of goes without fail. Someone will always say, if they came from like one place to another place, goes, "What, last place? This is what we did." And it's like, okay, cool. However, you're not there anymore.
Right. Right.
And for whatever reason, you didn't get the promotion, you wanted to expand your horizon, maybe try something different. However, the most important things, and even if you look at executives, a good executive will still take time to learn the systems from the very bottom to the very top. I
Hmm.
can't remember who it was, but this guy, I can't remember what book I was reading, but basically he went to basically, like, let's say Burger King University, where he started, you know, understanding, how to make a burger. Like, what does it
Yeah.
go into making a Burger King burger, the grill, the oils and everything. And he just took time to learn all those systems that were in place. So that way he can then, when he's in a better position, learn how he can make a difference. Because he's gonna already have known how things are operated. So you can't just go and think all your ideas are gonna work. I mean, that's pride. Thinking you
Yeah.
know it all.
Yeah.
I mean, at the foundation, it's pride.
Yep.
Because obviously the company's doing systems for a reason. Do they always make sense? Maybe not. But however, a lot of people don't know what happens behind the scenes and how complex things are. Or if you make a request, you don't fully recognize that how that opens the door for other people to make a request. Now all of a sudden that disrupts the flow and no one's doing
Yep.
their job. Then now they're focused on being managers versus employees.
Yep. And that's the what you said about um, knowing those systems. And you can equate that directly to the military service, in the sense
Mhm.
that you are broken down to the smallest unit possible when you start out in, say, boot camp, and you are forced to learn the systems.
Right.
And if I translate that to the civilian sector, um, just have to get in that same mindset set. That's why it's important for anybody transitioning, is to understand routine. So whatever career you find yourself in, even if it's something temporary, maintain your maintain your professionalism.
Hmm.
Learn that system. Learn it just like you would learn any weapon system, just like you would learn it. How to be like I was a grunt. How do I be the best grunt possible?
Right.
Read my publications, read my things, be as well versed in that as possible. Even if you're the janitor, what is the best cleaning solutions? What's the best cleaning techniques? What is the best, what if you're in sales? Okay, learn how to do a cold call, learn how to do a warm call, learn how to set up a trade show, learn how to do networking, whatever it might be very well versed in it. So that way, when you do gain a little bit of rank, or you find yourself in a position where you can make an impact, how can I take what I have learned, impart it onto the new people coming in,
Hmm.
to make the system more efficient? and to be able to jump in and fix problems if they need to. People can become now more reliable on you. When somebody has a question about the systems and how they work and how they operate, you can speak to them very articulately instead of, well, this is just kind of how we've always done it. You can say, well, this is why, we put the bun first, then the burger, then the lettuce, then the condiments, instead of some other order. What's 2 all beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun. The McDonald's, the Big Mac. Why do we do it this way? If the more articulate, the competent you are, the more credibility, the more respect, and people will say, okay, how can I be more like that? It makes everybody better. And yeah, apply that to whatever career path that you're on. There's a saying in I believe it's the Navy SEALs, that you never rise to the level of your expectations. You always fall to the level of your training. So if you don't train yourself, and I use physical fitness a lot just because that's what we were trained in as grunts. If you are not physically capable of hiking 20 miles with all of your gear, but you're only good at about 5. If you are in a position where you've got to hike 20 or 25 miles, you're going to crumble at mile 5 because you didn't train yourself well.
Right.
If you can't lift, I had a kid come in one time. He's probably 120 pounds soaking wet, like a little guy in the infantry. And I was about 225 at the time. I'm looking at him. I'm going, son, can you even lift me? If I go down, can you drag me out of this, whatever we're in? The answer is no, but we're going to fix that.
Right.
So I took it upon myself. Hey, I forget his name. I think it was Fleming. Great kid, but we got him strong. You know what I mean? You take these things and you make them. You identify your strengths. You identify weaknesses. You figure out how you can turn those weaknesses into strengths and make your strengths into greatness. Right. But if you don't train, if you don't take the time, again, back to the hamburger example, if you don't take the time to understand the hamburger in its entirety, in its juicy goodness, if you don't take that kind of time and put that kind of energy into it, when it comes time to make your burger for the first time, you might get the bun and then burn the patty and you don't know what's going on.
That's
so you have to train yourself to a high standard, hold yourself to a high standard, no matter what position that you find yourself in, no matter what career path you find yourself in, whether you're a sales executive, whether you're a burger chef, or you're you're selling watches, or you're helping people like yourself with their therapy and helping them to get through their day to day. If you are not fully immersed in what you do, people are going to see through that, and your credibility is going to be gone. So if you want to be the best, if you want to be the best servant leader possible, you have to take that time and take a vested interest in your knowledge of the subject and your training in that. And so that's fantastic that you kind of brought all that together with what you do, the counseling services that you provide. That's fantastic.
Yeah, you definitely. There's a lot of learning, studying, and going into involve what helps somebody, and then you just tailor what helps, and it's been proven, and that's why we have a lot of evidence-based practices. So just like how to lift someone. So even if you had someone who, was 200 and you were 220, but didn't know how to lift for squat,
there you
go. They're gonna hurt you, and they're gonna hurt themselves. So it's all about learning that technique and that system of why we do things, and that's something that can be a little bit more focused on, is giving people a reason, not just because I told you so, if that's what you do. And fortunately, that's a lot of military. It's like, this is what you're going to do. You don't have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I only have basic knowledge from the vets I've talked to, is having more reasons for why we do things. And it being okay to ask questions and learn and grow. It might be a consequence, like, how come you don't know this? And it's like, okay, sometimes you just have to take a deep breath and just keep going forward. And sometimes you just have to maybe ask somebody else. And that's what it really comes down to, is really a skill development, is learning what to do next. So it's not like you don't know what to do. It's more so, how do you do it, and why do you, what systems in place benefit you?
Teaching forethought is a very difficult task. Sometimes some people have it, some people don't. Some people have to be Some people you have to outline every minute of their day and tell them how to do it. Some people you can go through, say, hey, here's what I need you to do by the end of the day, get it done.
Right.
And again, that's just as a leader, when you find yourself in a leadership position, you have to, sometimes it's just do it because I told you to.
Right.
Like with my kids, I don't need you to backtalk me when I tell you to do something. I just need it done. But then at some point you can get to the point, okay, here's why I need it done this specific way, or here's why I need you to always brush your teeth because you don't want cavities and then your teeth to rot out and this, that, and the other. You can get to that point. But initially, do it just because I tell you to do it.
Right.
And in the military, you have leaders, unfortunately, who never get out of that just because I said so, just because that's how it's done mentality. People with a little bit more expanded thinking are going to be, well, why? Wouldn't it make more sense if we did it this way? If you're not even open to that sort of conversation, it's going to be you're going to have a very difficult time later on in life. Because yeah, sure, you're going to have kids because in the military, especially, you got people from all over the world, all different walks of life, all different life experiences. Even young guys may do things slightly different. And again, at first, guys, we have to do it this way because you have to be brilliant in the basic tasks. But when you finally get to your first unit, if you've got a good squad leader, team leader, whatever, that would, again, depends on what branch. I can speak to the Marines because I was a Marine.
Right.
But if you receive your new guys and you keep them, again, keep them in their routine, keep them in what they're doing. Here's our task. We're going to get it done. This is how we're going to get it done. Eventually you have to let them problem solve on their own because you're not always going to be around. You're going to get transferred units. You're going to get out, anything like that. I had a kid one time. He was 4 years. He was a Lance Corporal. It's an E3 in the Marines. And I'm like, man, why aren't you a corporal right now? It's literally the next step up. What is going on? I don't know, Sergeant. I just, do my job. And he wasn't a bad guy at all. So I took the time and went through all, we call them a counseling. I go through all my guys individually and go through their records and basically do like a little mini audit for them.
Oh, sure.
And it turned out that this kid had never, there was one online class that he hadn't completed.
Oh. And
this is a class that it will take you 30 minutes to complete this class. Why haven't you done it? Oh, I don't know. So I didn't know I had to. I said, go do this right now and come back and see me. And I'll go to the next guy. And he, sure enough, he went and he did, and he came back and said, okay, boom. Now you're what we call PME complete. And you are going to be eligible for corporal next month. Sure enough, he got promoted like within a month or two.
Oh, nice.
It was just little things like that, just like paying attention to your guys. But at that point, this is because nobody had taught them before. I had one kid, I was doing this little audit for him. He said, I've never done a counseling that they didn't just yell at me the whole time. And I was like, that's not what I'm here to do. They call those like a negative counseling because you screwed up or did something.
Right. I'm
just here, trying to see where you guys are at, in all of your PME. Have you done your rifle qual this year? Have you done your PFT? Have you done all your little extra classes and things like that? Just to make sure that you guys are good. And then we can talk about, okay, what's going on in your life? You married, you got kids, like what can I do to help you out? The kind of those conversations too. But if you don't take that kind of time as a leader and really show them that you care, it's not just, okay, I see you guys every single day. You're under my command. I have to deal with you. If you don't take the time to actually build at least a little bit of a relationship with your guys, you're never gonna be as efficient as you could be. You'll get by, but you'll never be as efficient as you could be if you didn't actually build some type of rapport, some type of relationship with your guys. You don't always have to lead by fear. Sometimes you have to come in and yell. I get it, 100%, but that can't be your go-to solution for every member of your team.
Correct. There's always a time and place for everything.
Yeah, it was I think it was Maslow said if the only tool in your toolbox is a hammer, all your problems look like nails.
Sure.
So if that's all you've got, you're going to attack every problem with that same technique. But if you've got a drill and a screwdriver and a wrench and you've got a level and measuring tape and all these different things, now you can tailor, you can custom tune. You don't go into talking to somebody when you do any of your work and do the exact same thing with them every day. You have to figure out something special. I couldn't go in as a personal trainer. I'm not a personal trainer, but I would be very silly if I tried to give everybody the exact same workout I gave
Correct.
they would never know because they don't see their other clients, but they're going to, you're not going to get the results because you're not taking that time to get to know them, get to know their needs, get to know their nutrition, their diet, their habits, all these things. You're going to be a cookie cutter, and
Correct.
that's not going to work. You might get some result, but it's not going to be as good as it could be if you actually take that extra time.
And that's where people get a little bit, we use a lot, for lack of better words, lazy, because they do cookie cutter work, right?
Yes.
So they take one skill, one set, and they apply it to everybody. Well, that's not PT, it's not therapy, it's not counseling, that's not coaching.
Nope.
That's just you taking a simple solution and applying to everybody, thinking everyone's getting the same results because it worked a handful of times.
You can have a template. There's nothing wrong with the template.
No.
But
well,
you have
that's a little bit different. What I'll call that more of like a checklist. Like, let's go over what's your current skill set, what do you have, what are you seeking to do, and then for some people, I literally have a step-by-step guide. Because some people, and there's nothing wrong with this, it works for kids, it works for adults, is having a step-by-step guide of how to do a task.
Yep.
Whatever that task might be.
Yep. And that's that works for people. And people like lists. People like checking boxes. People like this kind of thing. And some people can, lump some of those things together as one task. Some people need each individual one. Like, how do I brush my teeth? Step one, have a toothbrush. That's kind of goes without saying, but some people are like, how do I brush my teeth?
Well, the question would be, do I brush my teeth or do I floss first? Or do I use
Yeah. Exactly.
So for some people, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's paying attention to what are someone's needs.
Yep.
So it might be, okay, first you're going to floss, then you're going to take out your toothbrush, you're going to put the toothpaste on, and you're going to make sure your inventory is all set so you have plenty of toothpaste, because the last thing you need to do is running out of toothpaste.
Yes.
So, and then you brush your teeth for about 2 minutes, and then you do the mouthwash, and then you spit it out, but you might have to put it in, make sure you keep that toothpaste in your mouth, just clean out the outside, so that way all the fluoride and everything just keeps your teeth cleaner.
Yeah.
And so some people need that. Some people just say, brush your teeth and do dental hygiene. And some people get it. And I always equate it to like a math problem. There are some people who need a step-by-step for how to solve every math. And there's some kids who don't need that. They don't need 10 steps. They just need 5.
Yep. And that's how you set yourself apart as a good leader, is understanding that dynamic.
Right.
And not getting frustrated too, because I've seen guys in leadership positions get really frustrated at some guys because they just can't get that breakthrough. That's when, if you are a leader and you have other leaders around you, hey man, have you tried this? I had a guy, last year that came in. He was my quote leadership challenge, right? Mm-hmm. I tried this with him, and it gave me some pretty good results. Have you thought about that? No, that's a good idea. Let me give that a shot. Maybe he needs a checklist, maybe whatever it is. And again, apply this to your kids, apply this to civilian world, apply this to military. All these principles, these overarching principles make sense. And at the end of the day, you're just trying to keep your organization as strong, healthy, and efficient as possible, because we've got to meet our end state, whatever that might be, quarterly sales goals, inventory management, whatever your profession is. I want to make sure this person gets across the finish line with their, with their alcoholism or depression or whatever. You can apply this to again, you can apply these templates and these overarching principles anywhere. And that's kind of the beauty of what you and I do. And the conversation we had last week is, how do we help other men to continue with their purpose? And conversations like this, conversations like you have on your podcast, some of the lessons I teach on mine, being active on the social media as much as possible. I can't sit on X all day long. I got other stuff to do, but popping in and giving your 2 cents whenever it's applicable. And then just being a cheerleader, hyping people up too. That was always my things, being the motivator. I can get you off the couch and get you motivated to go, but I cannot be your discipline.
Correct.
I can drag you to the gym, but until you get to that point where you want to go every day, you can listen to all the self-help podcasts, you can read all the books, you can do all the things in that nature, but until you actually get up and get moving and put these things into action, you're not going to see results. So I commend you for what you do, is to be that motivation to give people the tools and the resources and the people. But at the end of the day, gentlemen out there, ladies, if you're listening, you have to be the one to get up off the couch, put your feet on the ground, and take that step towards whatever goal that you might have. It's almost a new year. Put those SMART goals into application. What do you want to achieve? And you have to identify that. And I'm sure you get into it with people you talk to. I get into people I talk to all the time. Until you personally take action. Like I've taken people to the gym, shown them how to do a workout, written workout plans for them, but I cannot physically be everywhere at once. I'm pretty consistent. I'm always up at like 4 o'clock in the morning. If you got a question, ask me. But I cannot literally dress you, put you in a car, send you to the gym, put a book in your hand, put a scripture in your hand to read. You have to do that on your own. But I'll be there to support you as much as possible. Because that's just how I am. I think that's how you are too.
Pretty much exactly, yeah.
There you go.
I can teach you the skills. I can show you how to do things. However, it's your responsibility to, which is a good thing, because as much as people go against responsibility, they want to be trustworthy.
Yes.
Be trustworthy means that to trust you with a task, and that is what being responsible is. It's putting 100%. In what's going to benefit you, and also understanding if something's not working for you, stop doing it. I've created dozens of plans, and sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. However, at the same time, we always learn what works. So, and we have to try out a little bit of everything to find out what works for you, because again, we don't want to be cookie cutters. That does no one any good. No. And it's honestly inefficient work.
Yeah. And it can be detrimental at the end of the day too, because now, you know, if say I'm a personal trainer and I have done this cookie cutter workout with you for 3 months, and you think, okay, now I'm on the right track. And now you're like, I can do this on my own, and the trainer lets you go. Now you're just doing the same cookie cutter thing over and over again, and wondering why you're not getting any better, because you were sort of duped, if you think about it.
Right. Well, also loses that creativity of how to be a little bit creative and different.
Yep. So, and there's so much content out there in the fitness space, in the psychology space, in the spiritual space. There's a lot of content out there. It's not necessarily niche, but you can find something that resonates with you, something that can teach you. You can't the whole excuse, I don't know how to do X anymore. Whatever that X is, you know, somebody says, I don't know how to bench press. Go on YouTube and look up how to bench press, and you will find probably 300,000 videos on how to perform the proper bench press. Right.
That's right.
There's really no excuses at the end of the day. So if there are any tips in that space, and bench press, or how do I close deals on a sale, stay grounded, stay educated, stay active, and stay consistent with your learning. That's how you're going to set yourself apart and be the best as you can be. And just don't make excuses, because excuses, in my opinion and my experience, are tools used by people who are weak. And as men, we are called to be strong. Not necessarily have to be physically strong, but you have to be a presence in the world.
Right. And
if you are constantly making excuses about something when there's no reason to have an excuse, oh, I don't have time to go to the gym. If I sat down and did an audit of the average person's day, or just check their screen time every Sunday when it pops up on the iPhone, I will go ahead and tell you that you've got plenty of time during your day. Why were you spending 7 hours a day on Instagram? Like, you have time. I promise you, if I come in and audit your timeline, I will find time for you to take an hour to do some type of physical fitness, to read 10 pages of a book. There's a program out there called 75 Hard. Yep. Awesome. There's programs out there that guys do to help other men be great. Nate Norman, who you and I talked about, does an awesome program. I think it's SRX 90. Great program that he put together. I would suggest to people that instead of doing like a 75 hard, you need a 365 moderate.
There you
go.
If
you just stay consistent with just the little things, read a book, drink your water, read your Bible, read whatever your whatever religious text that you subscribe to, and try to be a little bit better every single day. That will be more beneficial long term than you try to push yourself as hard as possible for 75 days. Like, there's a mindset to it. I get it. That works for some people, but if that's your only tool, like we said, your toolbox isn't going to be complete. So,
well, Chase, I couldn't say it better myself, man. So really well said. And I just want to thank you for coming on the podcast.
It's a pleasure.
And we always want to give appreciation to people on this podcast for coming, on and sacrificing their time. We started about 6 a.m. EST. So Chase, thank you for coming on. So everyone, go follow Chase on X, YouTube. All his socials will be in the description below.
Thank you, sir.
And also subscribe to the Men's Lifeline Academy so we can help you become a scholar of your life so that way you can take your life to the next level. Hope everyone has a blessed day. And Chase, thank you again for coming on.
Thank you, sir. It's a pleasure. I appreciate it, sir.